Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar of the Mentoring in Schools course in the European SchoolNet Academy. My name is Nettle Carrera, and I'm one of the moderators in this course, along with my colleagues Ben and Ana Benigna. Today I have here with me another colleague from European SchoolNet who has also worked in the MOOC. His name is Victor Perez. Welcome, Victor, and thank you for being here with me.
It's a pleasure.
Very warm welcome to all of you who are joining this webinar this afternoon. We have seen many countries: Azerbaijan, Romania, Italy, Greece, and many more. So it's really nice to have you here joining from many countries. Before we start, we're going to ask you to mute your microphones. You're supposed to be muted already, but just in case, please mute yourself so that we don't hear any background noise. And we will do the same with ours. If you have any question for the speaker, please write them on the chat, and my colleague Victor here and me will be gathering them, and we will ask the speaker at the end of the presentation. So the webinar will last around 1 hour as usual, but if you have to leave before, we will be recording the webinar, so you will be able to access afterwards in the relevant section of the course. So unfortunately, this course is almost over already, but we don't want to finalize the course without giving you the opportunity to attend a very interesting webinar. And for this, we have a very good speaker today. His name is Collin. Paul, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
And Paul will be telling us a little bit more about coaching online and using video for mentoring and coaching. And just to give you a little bit of information about Paul. So he is currently the assistant principal at the Church of England Secondary Comprehensive School, St. Augustine Academy Maidstone, which is part of the World War Academy Trust in the UK. He's in charge of teaching and learning, coaching and CBD within the Academy, and he has worked for the St. Augustines for 6 years now, moving into the role within the senior leadership team 3 years ago. In September 2017, Paul will begin his first headship role in a school in Norwich. Paul has also experience as a professional actor, and he has been working as a head of drama for over 10 years within education. He trained at Sussex University on the graduate teaching program, and after studying at Aberystwyth University at the Bristol Old Vic, Paul spent most of his time working in the field of education, starting his teaching career working for the Royal Shakespeare Company. He's also an accredited coach and works in an associate educational partnership with Fridays Connect by developing his national coaching model for linear coaching through Inspire to Teach, which link I show in the chat. So please have a look at the chat to know a little bit more about this. And I hope the introduction is fine for you, Paul. If not, feel free to correct me or add anything you want.
No, thank you. That was a wonderful introduction.
Okay, so otherwise the floor is yours. I'm gonna share your presentation now. Okay, and we're good to go. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Nara, and thank you, Victor. Well, good morning, good afternoon, even. Sorry, everybody. A very varied selection of people from lots of walks of Europe, so welcome. Hopefully this session will be useful and inspiring. We're going to focus on coaching for excellence, but it is also very much about mentoring as well. And before we start, I thought it'd be a good idea to share with you some objectives for this session, so that we've got a ground that we're working from. Hopefully by the end of the session that we'll be able to understand what's the importance of having team missions and how beliefs and values translate into coaching and mentoring for excellence, and then look at video coaching tools which you can use to provide you with a platform for mentoring and coaching. Why me? Well, I had a very lovely introduction there, and as you can see, I do have some experience in secondary education and also working with a number of different organisations when it comes to coaching and mentoring, and in particular in a school environment as a head teacher, looking at building a philosophy of how to work with professionals, building an emphasis on being great and using the tools that are enabling us to be great. with a huge emphasis on personal responsibility when it comes to coaching and mentoring for the people that you are working with. So I'd like to start by thinking about values and the values which we share in my organisation. Values are a really important part, and you should always consider and think about where it is that your values currently lie. My team has a mission that we are here to develop great teachers. Our team beliefs are that we're not coaching staff just simply to get through one-off follow-up lessons, but they're working through a process that is looking at the moral purpose behind what they are doing, the mindset that they have, the motivation and professional practice that they have, so that they can deliver quality lessons to students. And that in turn is allowing them to achieve high levels of impact. We have, and I'd like to share with you, 4 key values when it comes to coaching and mentoring. We believe in an idea of excellence, hence our title for this webinar. We expect and deliver excellence for all our young people, and that comes through in the tools we use as part of the presentation. We are very dedicated. We have a dedicated and ambitious belief that staff should be continually improving their professional practice and raising the standards, in turn then allowing that to raise the standards of the young people they work with. We believe in integrity. We are open and honest with our colleagues, and we have a very core principle that is about togetherness. We believe in our colleagues, and we display and respect a warm approach when it comes to coaching and mentoring. And we believe that when one person succeeds, of course, we all do. So what is great coaching? Well, many of you, I'm sure, will be coaching or mentoring a colleague or have experience of that. But I just wanted to share with you some of the key skills we ask our mentors and coaches to think about. And it is built around relationships. They are critical to ensuring a genuine and honest communication happens. And key skills of a great coach, I think, are about helping people to understand the issues that they face, the challenges that they may face, and allowing them to then empower and find the solutions themselves with support and guidance. And you as a coach or mentor clarifying the expectations of what you want them to achieve. It's about helping people see when they are not meeting the key expectations of your organization. And it's giving others a chance to think about and reflect on themselves and their own behaviors. Our experience is that very often some of these simple expectations of coaching can be easily overlooked. So it's important to reflect on them. So why do we coach? Why do we mentor in an organization? It's very time consuming. And if your organization is not giving time to the process of mentoring, then it will not work. And I suggest you would review how much time you are giving. It can be challenging and complex in its nature. So why do we bother doing it? Well, great coaching is about building capacity in others to allow them to find solutions and think about ultimately increasing the impact of that organization. We do this in my current organization through a number of tools, 7 key tools that create habits for coaching, which is based around a strong philosophical and theoretical basis, which I'm going to share with you today, in the hope that you may be able to emulate some of these and look about thinking and honing your own experiences over the forthcoming years. We should not be sort of diverse to the fact that obviously coaching can bring about difficult conversations. In our experience in the organisation I work for, these are the most difficult aspects of senior leadership, but it can be in your organisation that you're having difficult conversations through mentoring and coaching on a regular basis. That might be something like pointing out what people's behaviours are because they're not meeting expectations. Handling strong emotions in others can be complicated, and being in a conflict with others can also strike complication. These skills that I will share with you today are learnable skills which will make these situations much easier to approach. So I'd like to share with you our current approach in my organisation and how we look at coaching around a framework of tools. Most of the tools that I will speak about come from a development of the psychotherapist Carl Rogers. Carl Rogers believed in a client-centered approach, that coaches and mentors should not be the expert, that relationships are key, empowering the client is always the intention of the mentor, and you should avoid judging an individual, that there should be what we call an unconditional positive regard towards the person or persons that you are working with. In its essence, the Rogers framework is broken down into 4 simple, understandable individual sections where we think about, as mentors, planning with our coachees, we practice, we reflect, and we analyze. And this is to develop learning and acting differently in situations that in turn develop different unconscious and conscious competencies when looking at a situation. So in my organisation, I run a 2-week coaching and mentoring cycle, which is part of the framework. Some lovely people here, Kate and Holly, who recently have been coaching each other. Our framework typically would look at an initial planning meeting, for example, of 25 minutes. Kate and Holly might meet and co-plan possibly a forthcoming lesson or an area of improvement they wanted to look at. And then they would continue on to the second part of the cycle where they have a learning reflection, generally 10 to 15 minutes. And we utilize a platform called Iris Connect, but you can use iPads or other initiatives. And this is where Holly, in this case, would join the lesson for 10 to 15 minutes to support Kate's reflection and learning and consider some of her keystone habits. And then we would agree what we call key levers, key focus points for moving their practice forward. A reflection and planning meeting would then take place where we would reflect on the lesson, and Holly would give some feedback using our framework, which I will talk about later for coaching, where we identify those 1 or 2 key levers and we put them in place for the next lesson. Some might call this incremental coaching, but this is the system that we embody. And then over a period of time, these 2 elements are repeated. Now, alongside this framework, we have coaching tools that build and sustain the conversations that are happening within the coaching and mentoring meeting. These are the tools we use, and I'd just like to break these down for you in the hope that these might be useful for you when you are mentoring and coaching others. The first tool we call preparing. It's very important that you know where your client, we call those people that we work with, you may call them delegates or colleagues, you know where your client is at. And this framework is useful for doing that. If you are speaking and mentoring with somebody where you feel you have a prescriptive style coaching where you want or have the answers, you might be making people aware of their unconscious incompetencies or conscious incompetencies. The coaching that we tend to find is more successful is where we are thinking about coaching where they have the answers. And your job as a mentor or coach is to help speed up their thinking, speed up their unconscious competence and conscious competence. You should think about, before you approach any conversation, where are your key people in your teams and what is it that you are going to use and say before you even have a meeting? What is your preparation that you are doing? That helps you build then into our second tool, where we build rapport, and we call this making entry. It's a critical part of any mentoring and coaching session, and it's often missed, and it's very easy to be friendly and show a unconditional positive regard for the people that you're going to be working with. For example, simple question, who are you? Get to know the person. Ensure that you are working with them on a level playing field. Remember the power of silence. You know, a silence in a conversation can hold massive focus, and it allows the client to come forward with their thoughts. Think about your positive body language. Leaning in when it's difficult is excellent. And be conscious of the power of dynamics in the room that you are creating. Tool 3 is for us about contracting, sharing agreements of goals and normalities of working together that you are going to achieve from either the coaching or mentoring session. What is it that you want? What is it that they want? What is it you bring? And how might you sabotage what they are trying to get out of the process? Be clear about this contract from the beginning. Establishing the grounds is really important. The better the contract, the easier it is then to move forward with difficult conversations, as I mentioned earlier. Tool 4 is about the way in which you give feedback to the colleagues that you are working with. And it's important to think about the type of feedback that you're offering to somebody. Is it going to be personal? Has it got some sort of judgment base within it? Is the feedback more difficult when it comes to it being judgmental? And we need to try and stay away from being judgmental wherever possible and clear about what we are saying. We use a framework which guides feedback, which is very simple to remember. It's called the I like, I notice, I wonder, or CSI, stands for forensic feedback. You might offer a specific to a mentor or coachee. Something you've seen, something you've noticed. You might say something that you are honestly commenting on. So be honest about that conversation. What is it you did notice? And be helpful and hone in on that specific point. You might ask a question which is a wonder question, a genuinely open question to help prompt deep reflection. These should, however, not be secretly prescriptive questions we would advocate, where you are then thinking about a prescribed answer that you want to know. Tool 5 looks at an acceptance style. Accepting that somebody that you are mentoring or coaching may have difficult feelings, and helping them getting through that is a skill in itself. Moving them forward. It's very important to pick up on an individual's feelings through words, acknowledging them and repeating that back, i.e. what kind of angry. If someone has said, I'm really angry about what's just been done to me, ask them, what kind of angry do you mean? Probe down deeper. And listen for descriptions that can mask feelings. Don't take sides. And if things are too emotional, then it's very, very easy to postpone the meeting or give an opportunity for people to reflect for 5 minutes or so. In your preparation, you might want to consider preparing and presenting your techniques to fellow mentors or coaches. So you could do some role play where you think about one person being the client and one person being the coach. Talk for 2 minutes about a difficult situation and then get the coach to follow that process of acceptance. Ask key questions such as, how did this make you feel? And then reflect on that process. We call this the 3 Ps. First of all, practice, then perfect, and then perform. Our 6th tool is what we call the catalytic style. Now, in a situation of mentoring, there is sometimes the need to speed up the client's thinking and allow them to absorb what you are then saying in terms of the feedback. They must have a situation where they are aware of the key knowledge beforehand, and the client has to own the situation in this style of coaching or mentoring. It's filled with open questioning. You don't add information, and feedback simply summarizes what you have heard the coachee or the client say. Again, if you wanted to practice this, you might get the situation where a client and coach or two coaches are playing the role, and you have an additional third person who is then going to observe and give feedback in the like, notice, wonder style on what they've seen. The practice, perfect, perform style framework. Tool 7 is about a prescriptive style. It's very useful in mentoring. Own up to the fact that you think they can't find the situation. Be honest with them and talk about what it is that you feel needs to move them forward. We use the framework that my advice to you would be, and then move forward. But don't be the expert. Don't be the person that's giving all the answers. Still advocate them trying to find and take risks, being seeking dependence through you as the coach. The risk otherwise is that you cause over-dependence on yourself as the coach, and we like to call this the Yoda factor, and it can disempower the coachee. Tool 8 would be the confronting style approach, and we have two techniques when it comes to confronting. This is very useful if you are leading or have a senior role, and it can be used as an accountability approach. It's very, very important to make sure that you have contracted initially very well at the start of the process. Otherwise, this can lead up to difficult conversations. And again, use the framework. What we agreed was, you said was, what I saw was and heard was, and what I felt was. Factually, this helps and avoids then the awkward conversations. Don't make excuses. Don't cloud information with other information. Definitely avoid in any way being aggressive. Confronting style exercises you might like to do in terms of role play is where you take the framework and again you adopt the roles. For example, you could have a scenario as outlined here where you have different teachers coming to you with different situations and you explore some of those scenarios. And these slides will be made available to you so you can take those scenarios with you to your organizations and practice those if you wish. The Confronting Technique 2 tool is very similar, but it's about grasping and nettling with some of the most difficult conversations you might have, which affect behavior and the effect on what's happening, your expectation, and the result. And this is the framework and language that we would use when using the Confronting Technique tool number 2. All of the tools look towards creating a collaborative mentoring and coaching demographic and conversation. And the reason why successfully we use coaching is because we have a collaborative, valued conversation network within our organization. And I want to go back a little bit before a lot of this was established and think about why we decided to, first of all, look at thinking about collaboration and tools within collaboration initially within the organization. There's a very interesting analogy that has been done with studies of chickens in the US. And there was a researcher that looked into the studies of chickens and how they worked on a collaborative note. Chickens behave in two different ways. They are either collaborative or they are very dictatorial in their relationships. Star performers. They become star performers because they lay the most eggs. Collaborative chickens are described as being green zone chickens. And the star performers are described as being the red zone chickens. They are extremely aggressive and they cause the green zone chickens, collaborative chickens who lay less eggs, to be very pecked on and they're not very nice at all. And this can happen in organizations where different style people act in different ways. Now, the researcher looked at breeding through the green zone chickens more collaborative generations of chickens over time. And what happened was the following. This picture, shows the green zone chickens. Chickens that were healthy because they collaborated together and they worked for the same values. This picture shows the red zone chickens. They were quite literally more than half pecked to death because they were not working in a collaborative way. So if you do anything with your mentoring and coaching, the first thing you need to consider is collaboration. And we've gone through that process over a period of 3 years. Since 2014, we've looked at what can be utilized to think about mentoring and coaching, both on a face-to-face capacity, but also through technology as well. Our initial experiences with technology and our initial outlays with technology were with video coaching. And we made some really big mistakes. Initially, we got big groups of people together. We didn't explain why we were doing it. And we alienated people to the point of where we had to go back to the drawing board. You know, the classic place where we got ideas from. And we looked at how we could refine our approaches. What tools, and I've explained those tools to you, did we need to use? We spoke with various colleagues who are based in the UK, one of which being Mike Fleetham, who is an educational coach and consultant. He has a website called The Thinking Classroom, and he was a primary practitioner, exceptionally good at collaboration through mentoring and coaching. And he helped us achieve what was important to us, which was, why did we want collaboration to help us achieve? We wanted to think about 4 core elements. We wanted to think about the way in which we gave feedback to mentoring and coaching colleagues. We wanted to think about how we allowed people to access and differentiate the way in which we approached coaching and mentoring. And we wanted to challenge and engage people in our process of coaching and mentoring. So we created a company which was called Inspire to Teach, which at its origin was considering how coaching and mentoring could look at niching together online support and platforms through the use of Iris Connect and our own developed web-based platform. I'd like to share with you some of those origins now and think about how those things have come together based over a period of 4 years. So Inspired to Teach origins really, as you can see, came out of coaching and mentoring for a whole school academy program, so an educational coaching program. And this was looking initially to develop our educational offering from a standard that was what we call requires improvement in the UK to good or outstanding. The origins of the Inspire to Teach were based around an educational hub where our academy is based. And we had the vision for the hub that we wanted to create a centre of excellence that would look at around our trust and would develop professional capacity and would be a home for national excellence for coaching. A strong professional relationship would be built through linked partners, and we would have a clear link to our Church of England organisation and our Woodard hub. We made link partners with some key organisations, the SSAT, which is a strong student-based educational organisation. We use for our online platform for webinars GoTo, but in the past we have used our current platform, Adobe Connect. And we use Iris Connect, which is an exceptional platform for looking at video coaching and mentoring through the use of video technology. So where are we now with what we currently do? Well, we are currently developing our coaching teams, and within our educational organisation, we have a lead practitioner. And this is how it stems down to our students and teachers. I lead an organisation where I direct training as an executive coach underneath 2 other executive coaching improvement partners who are here, And they then lead smaller teams of coaches that work across our organization. Our coaching program is identifying key leads within a school who are our coaching improvement partners. We agree impact on the program and increase student progression. And then we look at case studying and action researching throughout a process. And the processes of coaching and reflection that we've done lasted 6 months, but our sessions can be ongoing. Most importantly, I think, out of the tools, we developed a coaching framework. All of our coaching conversations are about giving feedback, amending what we do with our coaching and mentoring leads, challenging and embedding then what has been done. It is very important that a simple framework is in place for any mentoring or coaching conversation. That allows you to move forward on a session-by-session basis. And that helps build and sustain, as I said at the beginning, teams. Our goal was to coach ourselves out of jobs, to build an ethos where we're empowering our clients and eliminating the need for formal processes or retraining. And that links very closely with Iris Connect's belief as well. Personalization is key to any mentoring or coaching organization, and we are very much now shifting our focus. Before we had a focus on the what, and now we're much more about the who, the why, and the how. And that's shifted how we have those conversations and what we do as an organization. So I'd like to share with you some of the elements of the platforms that I use and give you some idea about the tools that are available to you on a worldwide network. And all of these tools can globally be accessed via the web. First of all, our platform that we have developed in terms of Inspire to Teach. And I know many of you have registered on our platform in the last week or so. And at the end of this session, I'd like to offer you the opportunity for a trial usage of that platform so you can explore it and see what it's like over a 7-day period. But in a minute, I will go into the platform and show you some of the elements that can be used. So I'm just going to change the platform here a second and share with you my screen. So bear with me.
You can see it now, Paul.
Excellent. And what you can see here is the Inspire to Teach platform. Now, a main user who is a coach or a mentor would log into the platform, and as you can see, you can have all of your clients there, and you can look at facilitating their learning through the platform. There are a number of different areas, resources, in each of the drop-down menus, as you can see here. But one that's very, very useful, and we have worked incredibly hard on, is the development of the coaching modules.
Paul, are you still talking? Paul? Okay, I think there is a problem with Paul's screen. I think he wanted to share something, to share his screen. Paul, are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I think Paul is not here, but let's wait for a few seconds because maybe he's having some issues with within the program, because I think he was planning to share his screen. So let's wait for a few seconds, okay? And in the meantime, if you have any question from for Paull, please ask them in the chat, and we will be gathering them and we will ask them to Paull at the end. I think Paull is back. But we have, yes, you're there, right?
Yeah, so sorry to everybody. I'm not quite sure what happened, so apologies for that.
It's okay.
Hopefully you can still see my screen.
Yeah, we see it.
Excellent. So what I was just describing was the platform for Inspire to Teach. And as you can see, most of you may have seen this front page. And what I was showing you before was the login area. So I'm just going to log back in now. And excuse me a second. And I was showing you the drop-down menu and the element of the coaching resource. So the coaching resource is blocked into a number of different modules, and you can send your mentees or your coaches along both of these modules, and they can then experience elements of how to coach, or they can use the platform to be mentored through. So if I was a new mentor or coach, I could explore and complete the mentoring coaching module, which has got a number of different sections on it based on our framework, which are looking at exploring the literature behind what makes a good coach. And throughout this process, there are a number of different areas which I can then look at and explore and read through, and then I can submit feedback to this area and develop my own personal, and I would then develop my own personal e-portfolio as a coach. Likewise, my coachee can also develop their own areas, and they can do that by a e-portfolio section, which looks like this, which can allow them to create and track documents based on all of these key areas. And it also lets them look at the UK-based teaching standards, and then also against, as I've just shown you, coaching modules. So if I were to complete part of a module on this program, it can then be identified through here and ticked. I can also document coaching observations via this program, where I would complete key information and then feedback, and that would then in turn be logged into the e-portfolio. So as you can see, it's quite a useful platform. There are lots of other specific elements. For example, we have a handbook which outlines some key documentation, and that helps with coaching as well. So that's just one platform that you could look at. But the one we advocate a lot and use a lot is the following. And can you still hear me? Can you still hear me?
Hi. Yes, we hear you. You wanna share your presentation again?
Okay, I was just checking you could still see me. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So the other platform which is very useful and you may be aware of or may not is Iris Connect. Iris Connect are a large organisation which utilise the idea of videoing to explore coaching and mentoring. It's an excellent tool. This is the home page for it. And you can log in as a user, and it has a number of sections, but predominantly the idea that you can video through camera devices elements of observations or learning that are taking place, and then you can share and comment on those real time or afterwards on what you have seen. So an example of that would be if I click on this video here. This is of a PE lesson with a student, but it's a theory lesson. And I have this video which I can watch, which has been recorded. But down the side here, I also have comments based on commentary from both the teacher, in this case, Chris, and also if I scroll down from myself as well. And it's real time. If I just mute the sound, it's real time. So if I were to scan across this video, you can see it jumps to where I have said, or Chris has said, that a certain student is off task. If I would jump through to more of the video, etc., we can see the narration that's going on between myself and the coach. And that's a really, really useful process. Again, that can be done in a different way. It doesn't have to be done by writing. You could also use the videos to look at commenting on a practice. So for example, if we were to go to this video here, I could think about creating what's called a form to work with this person, and I can add a form in. I might add, for example, question type. So how often does the person use open style questions? Or how often does the person use praise? I might attach that form, and then I can look and say, okay, they've identified these types of questions, or how constructive was the praise? And I can then go through the video and think about every single time there was a constructive use of praise, I would then show that that has happened. So Iris Connect is an extremely powerful platform for looking at video coaching and the way in which coaching is done. So I'm just going to get Naira to reshare my PowerPoint, if that's okay. Those two examples are really a quick snapshot at the different types of platforms you can use. Naira, is that okay if you just share the presentation?
Yes, yes, I'm on it.
Thank you. And I know that we have got some questions in a minute, and I'll be very keen to take some questions based on some of what I've already said. But as you can see within the presentation, there are a number of screenshots that look at the different types of elements of Inspire to Teach and also the platform. And it's worth saying that some of the literature that you will get shared with you also looks at case studies as well that we have completed throughout our experience over the last 3 years, one of which was a case study with a school looking at developing the use of live video coaching, where a member of a coaching and mentoring group physically speaks to a member of the team, the person that's being coached, via an earpiece whilst they are teaching. And they get on-the-fly direct conversation that helps them alter and motivate and change the element of the lesson that they're doing at the time. Incredibly powerful use of coaching, but does come with an advocate of you need to be skilled and trained in that so that it can work effectively. So where we'll be in the next few years, in summary, well, who knows? Technology is evolving and coaching is evolving as we speak, but we will definitely continue to discover, develop and share what we do. And that's a really important culture, as I said at the beginning, and value to have. So thank you very much for listening. I think we are going to move to some questions now.
Yes, thank you very much, Paul, for this very great and interesting presentation. Before we move on to the questions and chat or Padlet, we'd like to ask you a couple of questions before in terms of your experience in mentoring that Paul has prepared, Paul. We have them here, so I will need to launch the poll now. And you let me know if you see it, okay?
Indeed.
But if you want, you can comment on after the people reply. So this would be the first question. If you can reply to it, please, so that we have also some ideas about the people who are joining this webinar. Can you see the results, Paul? Can you see the results coming in?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. So we still have some people replying to the poll. Let's give them a few more seconds. Okay, let's wait a bit more because we have a lot of participants and not all of them have replied yet. And we would like to know if your experience with online mentoring or face-to-face, so please reply to the question. Okay, we will stop the poll now. Okay, so Paul, if you want to make any comment about the results?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that sort of just over half have experience with mentoring either face-to-face or online. So definitely a mixed viewpoint. And I know there was some questions posed about whether face-to-face can still be maintained if you're doing online coaching, whether you're using some sort of video-based or web-based technology. And how does that affect the relationship?
Okay, great. Let's go now to the next question. So in this question, we want to ask you if you're currently mentoring someone. Please reply. I'm going to close this now. Okay, so let's wait a few more seconds and we'll see if people are currently mentoring someone or not. So we've got majority of answers no. Okay, and I think we can close the poll now. Okay, can you see the results, Paul?
I can, yes, thank you. Yeah, so interesting, quite a few of you are not currently mentoring people. I would hope that some of the tools that I've spoken about, and I know will be shared with you, are really useful for exploring sort of structured conversation. And it's very important, I would suggest, to practice mentoring and coaching with somebody that you're not actually coaching first. You know, like a role play situation, because it will give you confidence in being allowed to make mistakes, to being allowed to explore and get your own style of mentoring as well. And that's really important, that you can be comfortable with how you're presenting yourself in that situation.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paul. Let's go now to the last poll. I'm going to hide this one so that you can see the other one better, which is about Iris Connect. And we want to know, Paul wants to know also if you're familiar with Iris Connect. So please answer now. Okay, let's give that. Okay, so basically most of the people, they're not familiar with Iris Connect. which is a good thing because we also have here Vesna Belogasta with us, which is she's head of international development of Iris Connect. So try to give it a try to Iris Connect and use it in your school. Paul, let's close the poll now if you want to comment on the results.
Yeah, I would agree. I know Vensa, as you said, Nora, is head of the international. Iris Connect is an amazing platform, and if you get an opportunity to use it, I would definitely advocate that. There are other platforms. I would also, point that out. There are other platforms, but in our experience, using Iris Connect in terms of video coaching has been the most robust and the most useful platform to use, and it's got a lot of options where you can delve into looking at specifics of mentoring, specifics of coaching, and there's lots of information that is shared on that platform for all users.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I think we can move now to the questions that we have. There are no questions in the chat, I think. I know there is a question what the result is about Iris. Antonietta is asking whether I'm not sure about the meaning of the question. Antonietta, if you can rephrase it, or maybe if Paul or Vesna understands the question, they can directly reply. And in the meantime, just in case, we're gonna use the time to ask a few questions that we have been receiving on the Padlet call. And so there were many questions, and they were basically, most of them, they were the same. So we just tried to take a few which were more or less about the same topic. And a lot of people wanted to know what kind of methods, tools, or strategies should a mentor apply in order to provide the best example for a debut teacher, which I think it's a beginning teacher.
Yeah, so just to clarify, what sort of tools can the mentor to use for a beginning teacher?
Yes.
I think it's very important to, as I've explained already, to use the tools that I've outlined in terms of those dialogue tools. But also for a beginning teacher, a teacher that's just starting out, it's about building a foundation of very small, incremental, focused steps for mentoring. I would always suggest that you don't look at anything more than 3 items within a coaching session, and actually really one is the most ideal thing to do, and you've got to give that person time to develop that, and that should be over a week at least, where you revisit that and see how it's improved. But don't just then put that to one side and go, yes, it's done. Revisiting more than once, again and again and again, and making those small incremental changes for any new member of staff is very, very powerful. And of course, you can share on a video-based platform like Iris the sorts of things that you might do as a professional as well. So you can share your expertise where you might have had a really good experience in terms of teaching, or a session that you've led, and get them to watch that. There's nothing like watching a professional. That's how we learn, and it's how we learn as young people. We watch as young people how we grow up. So that's a very good use and way of using the platform.
Thank you, Paul, for your answer. Thank you also to Vesna, who has kindly replied to another question in the chat. So if you want to find some research about the impact of Iris Connect, you can check that link that Vesna has shared on the chat. Okay, so there was another question, another recurrent question, and this one specifically comes from Vita in Italy, and she's mentioning that in Italy, as in other countries, it's not allowed to film students without the permission of their parents, and also some parents, they don't want their children to be filmed. So what to do in this case?
Yeah, so I can only go by what we do in our current organisation and give some advice, and maybe Vesna could also say, but I know that using Iris and also from our own organisation, we advocate that you have some sort of contract or agreement in place where you make it very clear that you are using it for professional development of the teaching staff. that you're not filming it from a student sort of watch point of view. And it is there to maintain and grow the professionality of the teacher. And there are templates that can be used, but it is being transparent, I think, with parents about what you are doing and why you're doing it in terms of filming. But of course, there does have to be that agreement in place. Yes, you can't just obviously randomly film people. We get around it in our organisation by, at the beginning of every year, having a security camera agreement. We have security cameras in the school that film 24 hours a day. And as part of that agreement, it says that we have the mobile camera, which is part of IRIS, and that all students can be or might be filmed at any point in time within the school, and that film will not be shared with any members of the public or indeed on any website. It is completely internally used and is secure via our secure servers.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paul. There was another interesting question coming from Elena from Italy as well, and she's asking how effective could be adding an online coaching in the case of a face-to-face process of mentoring, and if there are any specific aspects that could be better developed online rather than on-site.
Yeah, I think the idea of face-to-face and also online, for me personally, there has to be a blend of both those things as much as humanly possible. You know, generally kind of Skype and the way in which you might talk to someone online is fine, but where possible we do try and have face-to-face. I think what is very, very good online, especially if you're long distance and you can only afford to meet maybe at the beginning of the process and at the end of the process, and you're bolstering the online in between, is having a very clear platform that engages the person in developing each stage a document that is then clearly being processed, if you like. And that's why our platform was developed, to encourage that person to have a academic place where they're building up that portfolio.
Okay, thanks a lot. I was checking, there was another, there were actually 3 questions coming from Anna in Portugal, and she says, it's not totally clear to me how video will be used in mentoring, and the questions are the following. Can the closeness of the mentor-mentee relationship be preserved when using video mentoring? And how fluid the communication between these two should be? And also how effective is guidance or mentoring under these circumstances? Yeah,
some really great points, 3 great points.
Yeah.
So the closeness of mentoring a mentee relationship through the use of video mentoring, I think brings about some actually deeper and more meaningful elements when you are using a platform where you are watching video back from what you've just seen. You're developing a further understanding from what you've just seen, and it's not just a kind of face value experience. And then you're able to communicate over a period of time and revisit that experience. And that, for me, does develop real closeness with your mentee. The fluid sort of communication between working online and working with somebody, I don't have any issues with it. I think it's as fluid as the person makes it, as fluid as they are in terms of wanting to experience that online process and getting to grips with it. And there is a point of training that is needed at the beginning of the process to show somebody how to use something on an online platform. That's very important. Rehearsing that is important. So I think again enhances that. And we have seen better effect from using an online platform compared to just basic mentoring on a face-to-face process.
Okay, great, Paul. There was a question in the chat for Vesna, but I'm not sure what she meant, because she's asking if she can give us her point of view about IRIS, but I'm not sure if she is referring to something in particular. So please, Melanie, rephrase your question. And if Vesna, if you want to say something, Vesna, just let me know. I will enable your microphone. I will enable your microphone just in case you want to know to talk, Vesna. And you should be able to talk now if you want. Okay. Otherwise, if you have any other question for Paul, please go on the chat. We are about to finish now. Okay, there is a question. Do you not consider that the use of platforms and videos has a downsizing effect on people? Paul, I guess the question is for you.
Yeah, a downsizing effect. I don't think it does. I think it has to be bolstered with some of the conversational aspects and tools that I was talking about before. You have to be transparent and honest with any mentoring and coaching, and it's what you're doing with that is important, and the integrity behind that. As long as you are clear about what elements you're going to use, you've contracted that at the beginning, then no, downsizing, it doesn't affect it at all. I think only, well, what I have experienced technology doing is it enhances what you do as a mentor, and therefore grows it. And the ability to be able to connect with more than one mentor, so as a mentee I can maybe connect with 4 or 5 people online, is really enriching, because I can utilize different experiences as opposed to being assigned to one person.
Okay, thanks a lot, Paul. There's another question coming up from Melanie, and she's asking, how does a mentor usually react when you propose him to film its lessons?
That's a great question. And they always generally react with surprise and sometimes negativity. So what we generally tend to do is maybe an exercise where we would get somebody to be filming a conversation between the mentor and the mentee first. They might then be able to see what that video is like, how the process works, or indeed get them to see a conversation or element of lesson that the mentor or coach has already filmed. It's about making them comfortable, and that's part of my making entry comment earlier, making sure they have no surprises about what's going to come in the forthcoming sessions that they use.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay, I think we should end up here. I've seen that Paul is sharing now his email address, so maybe Paul, if they have any other question, maybe they can contact you.
Yes, absolutely. And there's just a quick sort of offer there as well. If anybody would like to kind of go into the Inspire to Teach platform and actually use some of the back end element of it, there's actually some username and password there that you can explore it with for a 7-day trial. If you're interested in going any further with it, then obviously just drop me an email. And all my resources that I've used today are available on that link, but I know that the organisation will send those out as well.
Yeah, and we will be sharing also the recording of the webinar and also the presentation, if you agree, of course, Paul, because there were a lot of people asking this on the chat. Okay, so I think that's it. Thank you very much, Paul, for this very nice and interesting presentation. It has been very useful, and I'm sure the attendees, they have learned a lot. And I would like to remind the participants, the teachers, there might be teachers, there might be not, but if you're following the course, you will know already that the deadline to submit your work is over, but you still have a few more days to submit the final activities. So please do so before the 21st of June. And if by any chance you miss the deadline or you have any technical issue, please contact the Academy as soon as possible, okay, so that we can try to help you out. And for the rest, that's it. Well, thank you very much, and thank you also to Victor, my colleague, who is here supporting me today. It has been really nice. Paul, if you want to say something, Victor, your microphones are open now.
Hi, just it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to be here, read all the questions, to listen, Paul today. He's inspirational. Thank you very much. I hope that you enjoy this webinar, the course. See you soon.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you also to Vesna, who was here with us today. And thank you, Paul, again.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And to the rest of the participants, also just a quick reminder to stay tuned to social media channels, Facebook group and Twitter with the hashtag MentorWalk. And it has been a pleasure to have you here, and also thank you for all the great work you have been doing during the course from the Academy in general, from the Academy team. Thank you very much, Paul, and have a nice afternoon, everybody. Ciao, ciao.